Hey, welcome one and all to the TFL Podcast.
Yes.
You're here with Rowan and Arch, and it's been 3 weeks of NFL glorious action, and we are looking forward to week 4. It's coming up real soon. Arch, how you going?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well, Rowan. You must be feeling pumped after your week 3. Me not so much, but well done. First in the micro last week, Ron. Look, I thought, I'll pump you up myself rather than having us all suffer through your gloating. So well done. We probably don't need to speak too much more about it, I guess.
Look, we'll do a lineup review in a second because, I just want to talk us through the genius of me. But no, thanks. It was good. Yeah, great result in the micro last weekend. It was very good. I'm very, very happy with that. It's nice to feel like the results, the process pay off. So yeah, I enjoyed that. So yeah, check us out, guys. You can catch us on Twitter. You can see our individual handles if you're watching YouTube. So it's at RowanTFL and ArchTFL. And you can catch us on Twitter as well. And you can catch us on Facebook as well. Look, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell, and you'll be notified for when we go live. We go live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Soon to be daylight savings time. And those NFL games get pushed a little bit further forward in the morning. It makes it a little bit easier to get some sleep. So I'm looking forward to that coming up this weekend. Although it's not helpful that we have a midnight London game coming up for us all. So, the things we do, the sacrifices we make. Sam, great to see you, mate. Thanks for joining. That's
Micro
Micro
King.
King.
Let's
go.
Spare him.
Go.
Cheers.
Dear. Hey, look, let's throw it up. If you're on YouTube, here's my micro winning lineup. Had a Lamar Jackson mini stack, really. It was just Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. I didn't really want to bring back with anyone from New England. Jacoby Myers was out. I couldn't pick who was the one to bring in. Obviously, Devontae Parker was clearly the one. He had a massive game last weekend against this horrible secondary that Baltimore seemed to have. And I'm looking forward to picking it apart in a minute coming on this week. But Dameon Pierce, he was pretty chalky. Well, I thought he'd be chalky, but the ownership was really flat.
It was quite low.
Yeah, really low across the board. Christian McCaffrey was serviceable, but Marquise Brown was where it was at. He's the one that won me.
Oh, finally got that bring-back piece we've been after.
That's right. So, yeah, he killed it. Marquise Brown was fantastic. 14 for 140. Phenomenal. All really short passes, though. Like, let's be honest. You'd think if you're getting 14 receptions, you're getting a little bit more than 140 yards, but I'm going to take it no matter what. Greg Dortch, Stephon Diggs and McCaffrey. Look, I think, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, these guys that were fairly chalky, considering, like, Diggs and Amon-Ra definitely were the chalk of the town last week. But I think what I've learnt from this is that if the chalk doesn't hit, then you don't have to hit the nuts to win. You can actually, this isn't a lineup that hit the nuts. There's no Mac Hollins here. There isn't a Devontae
Well, apart
Parker
from your
here.
quarterback.
I mean, look, Lamar Jackson went crazy. But the thing is,
pretty low ownership too.
Yeah, which was surprising to me. I thought Lamar Jackson deserves the high ownership, but where is he? He was down at.
Oh, you went past him.
I can't even see him. There he is, 6%. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, look, happy to have that lineup come through. Hit a top 5 as well. That was pretty nice. So, good day. It was a very good day.
Very nice.
We can't expect to repeat that, but we will try. We'll try our best to repeat that.
So let's talk game theory. Like, how many lineups in total did you put into the micro? So
I put in 100 lineups. So I maxed it out. I had 8 quarterbacks that I played. So I had 4 quarterbacks that I played 15 lineups on, and then I played 4 quarterbacks that I played 10 on. I think one of the things I'm noticing, especially with some of the winners for the last couple of weeks, like Monka Ragai and JP, who won the last 2 mains in weeks 1 and 2, their quarterback not promoted to the main yet, Sam, not in the slightest. But those guys didn't run super heavy on a specific quarterback. They still stacked, but they didn't run a specific, like only 4 stacks or anything like that. I think this week will be a little bit different with the game environments that we have coming up. But I wanted to kind of play across the field a little bit, spread my ownership across quite a number of players and see what would come through. But I definitely made sure that the stacks that I was having made sense. Like Lamar and Andrews, I think just you put those guys together every single time. So, no, that was pretty good. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts I had 15 of, and he was part of some of the stacks that also ended up in those top 100 lineups that I had, which was nice. So, yeah, had 8 in the top 100, 3 in the top 20. So, no, great day. Really, really liked it. Arch, you found yourself 9th in the mini. You're still finding your feet in that. How are you finding that 15 lineup construction going for you?
Yep, yeah. That's my preferred hunting ground. I like to have those 15 lineups. Get my hands a little bit more on them, hand build them, as well as use Mortz's cruncher a little bit as well. But generally like to just get that sort of hands-on feel for your lineups, centered around 3 main quarterback stacks, like 5 of each is normally how I would play it. Potentially might move to just 2 and really just condense it down. And obviously you're going to have weeks where you just bomb out, but then the hope is that there's those monster weeks where you sort of fill that top 10 leaderboard a little bit. So that's what I sort of like looking at. But what I've just having a look over how things have been playing out in the first 3 weeks on Draftstars. I had a little question to you, Rowan, during the week, and we're throwing up, what quarterbacks to play this week, what value to play, and I just said, look, I just get this feeling that the cheap quarterbacks just aren't winning, and whilst they sound like they're good values, we're not actually seeing them in the top 10. Anyway, so I thought, well, we can't leave it at gut. So I went through and I've just kept to the main and the micro as at the big, multi-entry tournaments on Draftstars. And I sort of divvied up, all right, let's class valued quarterbacks at sub 12K quarterbacks, ones that we think, in good spots at a cheap price. I'll call the QB dead zone at the 12 to 14K range, and we'll see why I've called it that in a moment. And then we've got the studs at your 14 plus K quarterbacks. And so had a little look so we're talking about 6 contests, 6 top 10, so there's 60 places. There's only 10 finishes went to those sub 12K guys, compared to 39 studs of 14 plus K. Only 5 in that dead zone. And then I had a look at, all right, so that's the top 10. What about just taking out the tournaments? Like, who's winning? Only 1 sub 12K quarterback won, and that was Tua in week 2. And we saw what happened there when he just went nuclear with Waddle and Tyreek Hill double stacks, just killing the slate. But that didn't win the micro that week, Rowan. Lamar Jackson.
That would have been Lamar, of course.
It was. Like, he at 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 10th in the micro. So what you're paying for is that huge ceiling that is more often coming from those 14K plus guys. It's only happened once that you're going to win a mass multi-entry tournament with a sub 12 guy. So, yeah, basically, like, just going back over it, so 65% of top 10 lineups have 14K plus QBs. Yeah. And so the numbers come in quite convincingly there. The other takeaway, just looking at, all right, so what was it about the sub 12K guys, the value players, that made them actually win? And I looked through, and it's like, all right, well, last week you had your Mac Hollins in your lineup, or you had the Tua stack. You basically hit the nuts at these obscure wide receivers or value guys that, not other people are on. Like, you have to just hit it. Whereas you get that, top quality quarterback with the high ceiling, you've got a little bit more leeway in the rest of your lineup, less pressure on it. So I thought that was interesting.
No, that's really good. Thanks for doing the research there, Art.
Yeah, I love some numbers.
That's it, deep diving. No, I love that. Super, super fun. Now, good tip. I think that's so true, to think about the pressure that you're putting on the rest of your lineup, and really, Draftstars, they're pricing these guys smartly. Like, it's a smartly made game that we're playing, and so there's an element of trust that we can kind of put in the salaries. That actually, these guys are priced up because they are good players and they're projected to do well. And so, with a higher median projection, often comes with a higher ceiling. So it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just think about that. So we're looking then for those value plays elsewhere, because of situation, because of injury, all those other stuff, mispricing sometimes. No, that's good.
But yeah, QBs to avoid though clearly were the 12 to 14K range. 8% of they've 10% in the top 10. Like it's pretty thin out there for them.
It is, and we'll see that this week. Like there isn't that many that are sitting in the the plus 14K range, and there's actually it's tempting to play some of these 12 to 14K guys. But anyway, we are going to jump into our matchups for week 4. We've got a few key games that we're going to jump into. So, Arch, let's go.
Yeah! Whoa! Let's wake up for review time.
As we do this every week, I'm always looking at who's currently viewing and watching to see if our numbers go up or down whenever you just go crazy there. And we've stayed there. Thanks everyone for continuing to watch on our YouTube live stream.
I don't know where it started, but it must continue, I guess. Generally, CMOS from Aussie Fantasy Football, great Aussie-based podcast, by the way. You should check them guys out now.
Definitely.
Well, actually, not now. Maybe when we finish up. Right. Yeah, great guys. But their encouragement obviously has kept this segment going. So you blame him.
I will continue to blame.
Or thank him.
That's right. Yes, we do love Crazy Arch. It's good fun. We're going to jump into our first matchup for the week, and it is Buffalo at Baltimore with an over-under of 51 points. Look, Baltimore. Let's just talk about their defense at the moment. They've been giving up the most passing yards per game with 352 passing yards per game. Rushing, middle of the road, 140 rushing yards per game at 5 yards per carry, though. So, that's the 7th most out of the league. And they're giving up 25.7 real points per game. That's 9th. So we're looking at this. I'm looking at this going, okay, where are places to attack? And Baltimore's secondary is either injured or just poor. It's a great place to start. It's a great place to start. So safe to say, Bill Stacks, Josh Allen, we want to play these guys.
Yep.
It's just the way that it is. Josh Allen is an absolute gun. We're going to play him. But the other side is also interesting as well. If you've paid attention to the news, Buffalo have lost starting cornerbacks and safeties to injury as well. And you got to look at this and go, all right, the past 3 games, they've been really stout on defense. So the defense numbers that you'd be looking at from the past 3 weeks, really good. 156 passing yards per game. That's 31st. 57 rushing yards per game. 31st. At 2.8 yards per carry. 31st. 12.7 points per game. Equal 29th in the league. So looking at that, you're going, okay, Buffalo, you're pretty good. But there is an opportunity here for guys like Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews to pounce, I think. So now I'm looking forward to seeing how this game is going to be played. But I think the ownership across the whole slate, I think, is really going to be focused in on this game. Like, this is the highest total, 51 points, like I said, and it's a place where I think all want to go. We all want to go here because we trust Josh Allen and we trust Lamar Jackson. They're putting up great numbers. Why don't we just go here? So I think within that there's a real sense of chalk. And so we've got to think about, how do I get different within this game? Now, Tyler, thanks for the question. Start J.K. Dobbins, I'm assuming. He's really cheap. He's really, really cheap. I think J.K. Dobbins is sitting there around the 8K mark. Let's just have a little look. Yes, min price. And so if you trust that he's coming back from the injury, right? He's coming back.
Yeah.
If you think the Baltimore can get up in this one, and they traditionally like to run a lot, but they've been so efficient through the air that their rushing rate, their pass rate's really high, rushing rate's quite low. So, look, I probably don't want to go to J.K. Dobbins too much. I think I'm going to fade a lot of the running backs. Brad, thanks for tuning in. Devin Singletary, sneaky play. Yes,
I think it was sneaky last week.
That's the thing.
He came in for you last week.
Was it 9 receptions last week, I believe?
Yeah.
I can't go there again. I can't go there again. I know he's cheap. And I know that typically we go, the way to get different in one of these chalky games is to play the other position. Let's play the running backs instead of the wide receivers. I don't know if I can do it. I think there's too much value across the slate. So I'm probably gonna pass on all the running backs. But hey, maybe that's how you beat me in the micro this week, by doing that instead. So I'm looking at this. I'm happy to double stack either side. I would not be excluding Mark Andrews from my Lamar stacks. I don't know if I really want to play Lamar without Mark Andrews this week because of just that connection that they have. He finds him in the end zone. Mark Andrews is just a yards after catch god. Like he's phenomenal. So he's leading all tight ends in air yards as well, mind you. So Mark Andrews is a beast. Stephon Diggs on the other side. He's going to be who I'm playing a lot of, but again, so is the field. So how do we get different? Maybe Gabe Davis is the one that you push. Maybe it's Isaiah McKenzie. McKenzie still sitting there at he's cheap. He's so cheap. He's 6,500. Like for a guy that they playing in the slot a lot, and he's clearly a key part of this offense. 7 for 76 and a touchdown last week. Plus he got a rush in there as well. I love Isaiah McKenzie at that price. It really softens the Allen stack. If you're going to double stack, which I think really we should be in this game, Allen, Diggs, and McKenzie actually is a nice little stack here. Yep. And you can bring it back with Mark Andrews. So, look, if I'm going to stack this game, it's going to be, Lamar and Andrews with a Bateman or a Duvernay because these guys are just getting it down the field. They're always a threat for big gains. Bring it back with a Diggs or a Davis. If I'm stacking Allen, then I definitely want Diggs involved. I would then pick between Davis, McKenzie, or Knox. Knox has been quiet, but he pops up for big games. So
he's out there.
He's out there. He's always out there. And then I'm definitely bringing that back with Mark Andrews. So, now, look, the offenses are healthy. The defenses are not. It's a recipe for a shootout here, Arch. What do you think before we move on?
Yeah, no, I love it. And look, I think the way I want to play this is I want to get a sense of who's going to be, what's the popular side going to be? Is it everyone's just going to play equal amounts of both? I've got a feeling maybe Allen might be the popular guy just because he's got Diggs with him for a stack. I think the Andrews Lamar, it feels like you're eating up a lot of salary with a tight end. So to me, generally what happens, if a quarterback goes off, the opposing quarterback generally is keeping up with it a lot of the time. And so I'm probably leaning towards Lamar in this game. But yeah, pass catches all the way. Stay away from the running game. Let's just keep it simple.
For sure. I just want to say, yes, Mark Andrews is a lot to spend up at tight end, but for what he can do, at 12,270, I think is still a really nice price to pay. You're not paying 13K plus for a tight end here. And Mark Andrews can, as he's shown, he's gone 29 points essentially last 2 weeks.
Well, here's a stat, Rowan.
It's huge.
Out of when last week, every time he ran a route, right? Well, when he ran a route, he was targeted every second route. Basically, 50% of the time he ran a route, he's getting targeted.
It's ridiculous.
You don't see that. He's on 39% targets per route run for the year. That's outrageous.
It's stupid. So he's going to be chalky. He's going to be so chalky. But you got to ask the question: can I get off this? And how do I get off this to be able to actually, elevate? Yep. Anyway, so we're going to move on to some other matchups now that really I'm surprised we're talking about this next one, Arch. When you put it on the run sheet, I'm like, what have we got an Atlanta game going on in here? Cleveland, Brissett versus Mariota. If you told me that at the start of the year, what the bloody hell are we doing here? But the over-under is 49 in this
49! Here we go. Look, this is a run fest. Both teams bottom 5 in pass rate over expectation. So expect a lot of the ball on the ground here. Atlanta is 3rd in rush success rate. And Cleveland, well, I mean, it's Chubb. And Chubb's the number 1 back in fantasy at the moment. Kareem Hunt's the RB15 on the year, he's an RB2 as well for the year. So we're looking at a great running matchup here, which makes me wonder about that over-under. Like if this is going to be a ground and pound type matchup or not. But we can see the defenses just aren't that good. Like they're giving up a lot all over the place, aren't they? Like let's just have a quick look at on the Atlanta side. Atlanta D is 29th in pressure percentage, meaning basically Brissett is going to have plenty of time to pass. They're not pressuring him. And the 30th in 15-plus yard receptions given up Atlanta. So I don't mind a little bit of Amari Cooper this week. We can see, we saw that he's clearly had a couple good weeks. And I think this continues this week as Brissett gets more and more used to that, running with the ones with Cooper as well. I don't mind him. The only thing prohibitive of Amari Cooper, I think 12.2K is you're not getting super value there, are you? Like you are eating a little bit of salary, for an Amari Cooper.
Let's not his highs are high and his lows are low. He is an inconsistent player traditionally, but from his current form, you can't deny it, and it's a solid pick. It'd be a solid pick for sure.
Yeah, no, and especially if Cleveland get out to a, I don't know what I was about to say then, but anyway, let's.
Here's a question
this is what
for you, Arch.
Yeah.
Just come on. Njoku 10 targets legit, or is it an outlier?
I'll tell you what, he's second in route participation on the team. He's 82%, and he's commanding 37% targets per route run. So they seem to be wanting to get him involved. And so if he's on the field and getting involved, that's a nice little recipe. And while he's still comparatively cheap, I think it's still a good play. I think he's going to be a popular play. Obviously, the points chasers of 23.9% points. I think he'll command some ownership, but I think he still should get a few targets there this week. Which brings me if we want to just stay on the Cleveland side, we might talk about our value play. What do you reckon, Ron?
Yeah, let's do it.
Inconceivable.
Value of the week has to be Nick Chubb. We talk about, it seems a little bit obvious, Rowan. He's the number one running back in fantasy as we speak. Yet, what is Draftstars, pricing him at? It's outrageous. It's sub 12K. It's 11.6K. What are we doing here? We have to play Nick Chubb. We've seen the ceilings. This is a plus matchup against Atlanta defense. They are going to ground and pound this game. Nick Chubb, play him at value.
He's averaging over 100 rushing yards per game. He's put up 4 touchdowns. He's catching a few passes even at times.
Oh.
So Nick Chubb's a gun. He's a gun. And you're right. The plus matchups aren't going away for Nick Chubb. So you just kind of have to keep playing him. And if he's going to be priced there at 11,660, lock that away.
Yep.
In all of my cash lineups, there's Nick Chubb.
Yeah. Your cash running. Obviously, the fear in a GPP is that Hunt gets the 2 touchdowns that go to running backs for Cleveland, and he's left on his own. And look, you still get your 100 yards rushing, but in a GPP, it's not what you want. So, I think it's still safe. Let's look at those totals. It's only week 1 that we saw Hunt, take those touchdowns, but we know that Hunt's a quality player as well. And so, look, I don't mind playing both of these running backs, not in the same lineup, but I'll have a bit of both, definitely.
Yeah, mix of 3 for sure. Talk to me about Atlanta.
Yeah, I'd love to, Rowan. Browns are also 25th in giving up 15-plus yard passing plays. They are also not doing great against the pass. So I do like Mariota here, stacks with Pitts or London. Probably a little bit too thin to double stack. But Yeah, I don't mind a bit of Drake London this week. Everyone was on him last week thinking, after we saw what's happening, everyone's like, oh, it's the London show. Pitts is no longer going, part of this thing. Then it switched. I think we're just going to we're going to see that week to week. And, you got to sort of pick which one you want. But I think you mix in a few stacks of Mariota, Pitts, Mariota, London, and I think they'll do good. The good thing is that you have the salary. But as we've seen, what's Mariota's salary, Rowan?
He's 11.2, so he's just sub 12.
He's sub 12. So, it's the classic, you need to hit your other plays, though, and it puts that pressure on. And so just be aware. I think London and Pitts are potentially players that, if they don't hit, obviously Mariota doesn't hit and your lineup's dead. So there is a risk there. Cordero Patterson, I think, is a nice play. We saw him have a 60+% snap share. He only had that twice last year, I think it was, in games. So we're seeing usage higher than we saw last year, and we all know how much of a good year he had last year. And Atlanta, how's this? This has surprised me. I was reading today. Atlanta's offensive line somehow ranks number 1 in adjusted line yards.
No, that's amazing.
It's crazy.
Against the Rams, even after that game, that's crazy.
Yeah. Look, Cordero Patterson could be a nice little pivot off of Chubb. If Chubb gets the steam in GPPs, and you want to play a little contrarian and in a good spot, Cordero Patterson's there. So I don't mind a bit of CPAT. So let's, if I'm thinking of how I'm going to stack this game, Rowan, obviously we've talked about Mariota with London or Pitts. And I think the bringbacks that I'd be looking at are probably Chubb or Hunt or maybe Njoku there. Or Cooper as well. It depends on how you think this game's going to go. So obviously you're not going to put Pitts and Njoku on the same lineup. It's going to be unique, but probably unlikely of hitting. But yeah, I think I'm on Cooper this week. I just like the matchup for him, and so yeah, I wouldn't mind playing him. Maybe just some mini stacks. Maybe if I'm not going to use this game as one of my main stacking in the mini, I probably could see myself having a few Cordero Patterson Cooper mini stacks going around.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice at all. Yeah. I think the Falcons are going to become my DFS darlings this year. They're just going to be...
We've talked about Mariota every week.
We have. And it's the rushing upside. It's the apparently good offensive line play that we get to enjoy with Marcus Mariota. So, I'm going to buy in on that. That's for sure. So, no, I'm a big fan of this game. It's sneaky, that's for sure. The next game that we're going to look at, though, is Seattle and Detroit. And this is a game that was... started up quite high. I think it even reached an over-under of 49. It's gradually coming down, so it's currently at an over-under of 48. Detroit are 5-point favorites here. But let's just have a look at the practice report that's been happening. And we had all today. These are the players that did not practice. TJ Hawkinson, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, and DJ Chark. So let's just look at that as, 5 of the top 6 skill position players that, Detroit have been leaning on and relying on for the last 3 weeks. And they've put up wicked points. The Detroit offense has been humming. It's been great to watch. But these guys are all not practicing. So there's a lot of question marks going on right now. And so if we don't see Amon-Ra St. Brown, if we don't see TJ Hawkinson, if we don't see Josh Reynolds and DJ Chark, we're pretty sure we're definitely not going to see DeAndre Swift. Then the question remains, where is this going? And if this means that the total is not going to hit, then I'm looking at this game and going, all right, this is a big, big fade for me. However, Seattle, they're giving up 157 rush yards per game. That's the second most over the first 3 weeks. The one player that is healthy is Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams has had the goal line looks, and he's priced here below 10K at 9,800. He had a fantastic game in week 1 against Philly with 2 rushing touchdowns. He had a fantastic game last week for 87 rush yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 receptions for 20 receiving yards. Jamal Williams is a guy that is gonna get used, and he's the heart and soul of this team. We've watched Hard Knocks. We've seen what he's like. He's gonna give his all, right? If no one else is playing, he'll probably have the ball, 70% of the time. So, I know he's gonna be chalk, but I just can't fade this guy. Like, there's nothing like with Seattle's rubbish defense. But the thing is, then maybe the script is that Seattle know they don't need to defend too hard on the outside, so they can focus in on the middle and they can stop the run. So there's some questions here. I think that's the scary part about this game, is that it's lots of questions at the moment. Hopefully by Sunday, we're going to have those things cleared up and we can, wake up and
to me, Rowan. This is like, and I threw him up as a potential fate of our week, and you hated that. Like, but the thing is, we've seen time and time again running backs that become super chalk at low price fail and not work out. Tell me why that's not the case.
Opportunity. It's 100% opportunity here. Like, there is no one taking opportunity away. Just none. So
I'm going to be pretty light on him. I want to get off. If everyone's on, I want to get off.
Fair enough. Look, here's the place that you can probably do this, because Detroit are also rubbish on defense. They're giving out the 5th most rush yards per game at the 6th most yards per carry, mind you. So if I'm going to swap this around instead of playing to the Detroit running back, then Rashad Penny, who's been
and that's where I'm at.
He's playing 65% of the snaps ahead of Kenneth Walker. Travis Homer's gone onto IR, so he's not in there anymore. So I'm looking at this. Look, he hasn't had a phenomenal game, but if we think back,
so no one's going to be on Penny.
You think not? And he's again 9,200.
This is the play. This is the play, Rowan.
All right. I'm hearing it. I'm with you on it. I really am. And I think again, large fields, you want to be playing Rashad Penny. I think if you're playing head-to-heads and 6-man games, then play Jamal Williams. That's totally fine. But if you're in the mini, or the micro or the main, then I think Rashad Penny is a place that you can go, and he could have one of his big 100-yard gains plus a touchdown and easily 2 times that salary. So I'm looking at that going, that's a pretty good place to go. I think let's think about the just quickly the wide receivers. I actually really like Lockett and Metcalf. Like, priced in that 10K range makes them fairly cheap compared to others. Both are seeing over 8 targets a week. Lockett looks best he's averaging 2.27 yards per route run. Like, he's getting the ball, 28% targets per route run for the team, compared to, DK's only at 1.35 yards per route run and 25% targets per route run. So Lockett's, Gino's guy at the moment, and he's getting a longer looks down the field, and he's getting targeted more than the rest of his team, really. So now I'm liking Lockett as, if you really want to stack Detroit, and because we find out that guys like Josh Reynolds are playing and DJ Chark's playing, because, those guys are cheap. And Josh Reynolds, coming off some good games here, 6 for 96, 3 for 38 and 1, then I wouldn't, mini stack it. Play Josh Reynolds and play Tyler Lockett if you think this game is going to hit the over. If that's where it's going to go, then I think those plays make a cheap mini stack for your lineup that could, give you solid value, potentially 3 times value here between the two of them. So I'm looking at those guys going, there's still something to be said, and I think people are going to pivot off of it the more the injury news gets delayed. If we don't have answers by later in the week, then that's probably a way to go. So stack, Goff and a cheaper play, then bring back with Lockett or Metcalf, or play Penny, and maybe you still want to play a Reynolds or a DJ Chark with a Penny as well. So there's a few options here. I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but it's not pretty, that's for sure.
No.
Next up, Jacksonville, Philly. Talk us through it, Arch.
Yeah, look, this is probably my second game that I'm going to target this week. Obviously, the Buffalo-Baltimore is the numero uno. But here we have a frisky Jacksonville, looking pretty sharp so far this season. Again, visiting Philadelphia Eagles, which are just, you can't fault the team at the moment, which hurts. They didn't mean that pun, but anyway, It threw me.
Solid. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks. Over under a 47 on playup.com.au. Philadelphia touchdown favourite. Look, both what we're looking at here, the pace is going to be here. Top 7, both teams in neutral situation pace of play. Pace means more plays, which means, more points. What's interesting is that, the over-under started at 48.5 just yesterday. Might have even been a bit higher before then. That's when I started looking. It's been bet down by 1.5 points already. I'm interested to see if that continues. But I think this is a game that Philadelphia is clearly the side of this that you want to attack. Hurts has been in the top 10 ridiculous amounts. I mean, let me just quickly do a quick count here on my sheet of research that I did. I mean, last week he commanded the top 4 places in the main and 8th and 10th, so that's 6 spots there. Like, Hurts was in the top 10 in week 1 as well. Like, he is as close as a sure thing you can get in fantasy DFS at the moment. Price is probably, it'd be the most expensive he's been so far. We've often had Hurts in the 14, 15K range. Now he's hit 16. You gotta keep playing him, don't you, Rowan? You can't stop.
This guy could be 18K and I'd still keep playing him. Like, let's be honest. This guy is just phenomenal.
Yep. Hasn't hit the 40 burgers like we've seen with some of like with Lamar, Allen, and Tua.
It's been 3 weeks.
But he'll
get there.
But you look, he's the last 2 weeks he's got the 300-yard passing bonus. Only 20 rushing yards last week, but I mean that's against Washington. Like, he could do what he pleased there.
The offense just stopped at halftime because they just didn't need to.
They're
just like, we'll just try a few things. Oh, that's all right. Defense has got this covered. So you didn't need to run that much.
No. I think in a normal game script, you're going to see Hurts on the ground a little bit more, which probably hurts your Sanders ceiling, especially taking those goal line looks. So I'm probably, it's sub 10K Sanders. I've tried to go there the last couple of weeks. I don't think that maybe the play's just there. What do you think, Rowan, with Sanders?
Yeah, I think that we just have to quell our expectations, and I don't think we're going to see him go. It's going to be a rare day that he goes 20 plus fantasy points on Draftstars.
No. And I think with that, and I think with Hurts, being that scorer on the ground, I think that takes away from the value of double stacking Hurts. And so again, this is probably a single stacking situation for me, where obviously AJ Brown still 13K for what he can do is just, he can have those, 30-point weeks easily. You saw, week 1. And what he can do with only 5 catches the last 2 weeks, he's still doing okay at 13K. I think it hurts Brown. Yeah, hurts Brown. And especially after a week where Devonta Smith broke out. Like, we saw what he did, and people are going to be all over that. People love getting on the young guys. 33 points. Do we think he's going to back that up with that sort of score? Most likely not. He's a young fella, and I think Brown is still clearly the guy there. So I'm going to be heavier on Brown Hurt stacks. I'm going to still sprinkle in some Devonta Smith stacks because they're the two. Goddart's the third target here, and looking into, he's out there running routes, but the targets aren't really there. The thing that's really worrying with Goddard is that he's only had 2 red zone targets for the year. All these other targets are in the middle of the 20s. And in fact, he's had no passing targets inside the 10-yard line. And so the high-value touches aren't there for Goddard. So that touchdown equity I'm a little bit worried about. And so I'm probably going to avoid him this week, I think, based on that. And I think, the Hurts, Brown, Devonta Smith, that's probably all I'm going to look at the Philadelphia side. Let's jump over the Jacksonville. Haven't they just been nice? Like, I think everyone just likes seeing young guys who've been absolutely screwed over by previous coaches doing well. Like, finally, someone actually, like, we've seen Trevor Lawrence in college, like, win national championships. Then we saw what Urban Meyer did. Like, I mean, I don't know what's going on there. How such a successful coach can be. Just that. Anyway, let's move on.
Too many issues.
Oh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
Getting too handsy in those local bars, maybe. Anyway, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I like the guy. Love the hair. Who couldn't? Is he going to have weeks like last week, every week? No. Is this offense just been super efficient? Yes. So do we see some regression coming? And potentially this is the week where Jacksonville maybe just get brought back down to earth and they just get a little bit of humble pie and just, hey, kid, remember, you haven't got it all sorted out yet. And so I'm a little bit hesitant to play the Jag side this week. They're not passing deep very often. And not only that, you pair that with the Eagles who are preventing big plays. They're third in the league. So we're not going to see, I don't think, like your Zay Jones, Marvin Jones on the outside getting those big plays. But I don't mind Kirk in the slot here getting a whole bunch of PPR points. But I don't know if there's a touchdown in there for him this week. And so without the touchdown, I don't think Kirk's worth playing. Although we saw week one without the touchdown, he gets that 100-yard bonus and you're feeling a little bit better. But his price is starting to sneak up. But so to me, it's a little bit. We debated about Kirk being a bit of a fade of the week due to I think he'll be popular. People are enjoying seeing Kirk do well on a new team. But I think Jacksonville this week, I'm not too sure. Eagles have also served up 9 sacks against Wentz last week. And so let's see if they can get to Trevor Lawrence, put some pressure on there. I want to talk about Evan Ingram as well, Rowan. Only 3 targets last week. And we talk about tight end, and Evan Ingram's been a bit of a value tight end pick throughout the year. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet. He's 84% route participation on the year, though. So he's clearly on the field. Is it just a matter of time that we actually see that touchdown come? Maybe it's the week where Philadelphia shut down the big plays. Evan Ingram's and Kirk maybe are eating up on underneath. Maybe this is the week for Evan Ingram. So I don't mind Evan Ingram as a cheaper tight end play. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Doug Peterson loves to throw to the tight end. That's a bit of an old adage now, but Evan Ingram is a guy that they want to get involved, and they just didn't have to last week when Zay Jones was having a monster game. So why throw to Evan Ingram when you can do that? But if you're right, if Philly going to protect the outside really well, then Evan Ingram's going to have to be a guy that gets involved in some capacity. And at $6K, like you're looking at that going, yeah, sweet, I'll play that. That's going to help my lineup. And if he can score a touchdown, then it pays off immediately. So I don't mind that.
Especially if you've got some high-priced guys that hit their ceilings elsewhere. If he fails, he's not going to hurt you. I think the way I'm going to play this game, it's a Hurts, AJ Brown, or Devonta Smith stack with a Kirk or Ingram bring back. I'm not going to play around with any other cute pieces this week.
No, fair enough. That brings us to the end of our game previews, because there really is only 4 games that have a solid game environment to really attack
and one of them was an Atlanta game.
That was bizarre. It's so bizarre. But we are going to run through a few key plays that we still think are value or really good otherwise. So let's have a look at some of this. Arch, we're going to start off with a value quarterback. Who are you looking at here?
Look,
through this.
We're on the puns today, aren't we? Cooper Rush, you son of a bitch. 10K. He's the sub 12K guy this week that people are going to be on. We saw him do pretty well against the Giants. Might just be an actually decent quarterback, Rowan, and a great backup that can just keep the offense going. It goes against my whole research today, Rowan. But 10K versus Washington, I think it's the matchup against Washington. Go your hardest, and let's hope you hit your other pieces. Because as we've seen, you need to hit those other pieces. But Cooper Rush is a good value this week.
No, that's good. I think the best of the rest is really hard to pick this week, but potentially, you might want to go back to some of the old guys. And Russell Wilson's there at 11.9, and Aaron Rodgers there at 12.8, and New England which Aaron Rodgers is playing against, is giving up the 7th most points to quarterbacks. Las Vegas is giving up the 4th most, and that's who Russell Wilson has this week. So if you want to get cute and really avoid the Buffalo-Baltimore game, or at least in terms of its quarterback, then I don't mind Russell Wilson. He's probably my favorite of those guys. But again,
that's right.
You want to that's right. You want to prefer the other ones. Let's talk about value though at running back. Khalil Herbert was a jet last week. Yeah, there's a lot of value. Let's be honest. Like Derrick Henry's in the 11,000, so that's really nice. James Robinson, we didn't mention him, but he's sub 10K. Jamal Williams is sub 10K. But outside of all of that, David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert are cheap. David Montgomery, obviously, he hurt himself last week. A lot of people were frustrated by that with their cash lineups. But Khalil Herbert comes in and puts up 160 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, just phenomenal. Khalil Herbert is still basement price at 8K. I am very confident that Khalil Herbert is a good running back. Not just because of last week, but because of a stretch of proof. Anyway, the Giants giving up the 3rd most rushing yards per game and the 2nd most yards per carry. They are 28th in rush DVOA, and we just saw Herbert go bananas against Houston. The defense is not that dissimilar in terms of that, and so the run game works for Chicago. They're passing the ball, like 3 times a game, and they're going to run it for 50 odd times a game. So whoever starts this game, you have to watch closely to see if Montgomery gets up. But if Herbert's the starter, like, just lock and load. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll be probably playing him like 60% even in the micro. Like, just like, seriously, it's a free square. It's a free square. Anyway,
until it fails.
Let's go to the other end of the salaries. Arch, who do you like?
Look, I mean, when we sort of were looking at the best of the rest of the RBs that we've talked about, none of them really filled us with much confidence, did they, Rowan? Especially the top 3 guys. Do you want maybe just put them on the screen for us? We've got Saquon Barkley is probably the one that looks the best at the moment. We saw him in prime time, showed some burst, and I think and get the score. I think he's probably the best play out of here. But you look at CMC, you look at JT, they have burnt people the last few weeks. And the way I look at it, these guys are quality players. Maybe in a GPP, if they've got low ownership, this is where we hit, right?
Big time.
Have we talked about Derrick Henry today?
I said he was a value just real briefly, but 11,600 is so cheap. Just so cheaper than Chubb, and we know the pedigree that this guy has. So unleash the king, I say. King Henry.
Absolutely.
There we go. Wide receivers, Arch, value picks. There's a few out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. And this is what you're going to have to look for if you're going to go for those expensive running backs. Couple that I'm really bullish on is George Pickens. If you look at those scores, he hasn't done anything yet, so we still get him at 6K. But what we saw the catch, obviously, like
phenomenal,
phenomenal catch. But this guy is playing like, he's clearly part of their plans. It's only a matter of time before he breaks out. And so, to me, it's nice to get a week early. If we can get in early here against the Jets, like, this is a great matchup for him to potentially have that breakout that we're sort of hoping to see.
7 targets, a lot of air yards last week.
Yep, that's it. I think he's someone you play, maybe even gets a quarterback upgrade in not too distant future, but obviously he's just got Trubisky this week. But other than that, we've got Dallas wide receivers, Gallup and Noah Brown. We're seeing the targets come their way. They're still sub 7K. I won't talk about too much, but I think they're just, let's just list a couple cheap options that are worth, helping lineups. Sills on the Giants. We were big on him in the showdown slate against Dallas. He was involved. He is running a lot of routes. He's 6'3". He could be potentially their best red zone target. And so if Daniel Jones gets things sorted, look for David Sills to actually do something. 6K, why not? We've seen the last 2 weeks, he's getting catches. I mean, he was 1K in the showdown. That was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was nice.
Didn't help me win. But anyway.
We're close, Arch. We're close.
Yeah. If we want to go back to the rookies I'm into, and that's Treylon Burks. We're seeing him get more and more involved with the Tennessee offense. 7.1K is not as cheap as the others, but the targets are there. I think be on Burks before he breaks out. And one other one which just boggles the mind. If you said to me, last year, hey, week 4 next year, DJ Moore's going to be 9K, I would have swore at you and never spoke to you again. And you are not my friend. Like, 9K for DJ Moore. Obviously, he's broken our hearts. He's broken our hearts. Mainly, I love the tweet going around of, it was something to do with, DJ Moore needs to get OBJ's dad making him a mixtape of all the times he's overthrown him. Like, it's a sad state of Baker Mayfield screwing up this guy. So please give me DJ Moore the talent. Surely, Rowan, surely he hits sometime. Why not against Arizona, who, letting a lot of things happen?
That's true. Secondary's poor.
What do you reckon about Cinny JC, Deontay Johnson, free square? What do you think about something like that?
Look, I mean, he's 11K. He's coming up against the Jets, so similar arguments to Pickens. I don't mind it at all. He's just getting peppered with targets. He hasn't seen the end zone yet. You could argue that he will see that here. So I don't know if I'd call it a free square, but it's definitely great value. No,
to me, he's a cash game lock, but the ceiling's not there for my GPPs.
Yeah, it could be though. I've given him, one more catch, notch 100, and get a touchdown, and he's suddenly walking into 20.
Yeah, but that relies on Trubisky getting to the red zone.
That's true. You gotta think out who you're relying on.
Yeah, what are some good plays at wide receiver? We've talked about cheap.
Let's talk about our premium play of the week. So let's talk about that one.
I wasn't ready.
I could tell.
Show me the money!
Our premium play of the week for week 4 is CD Lamb. He's priced at 13,710, which is pretty nice. There's a bit of a cushion going on in the top wide receivers, but let me tell you why CD Lamb's going to have a good game. He's third in the NFL for target share at 34%. He is equal third in the NFL for targets. He is 5th in the NFL in air yards. He is coming up against the Commanders, who give up the 3rd most passing yards per attempt and the 5th most passing yards per game. We know that the Commanders are rubbish on defense. So give me all the CD Lamb. Cooper Rush is going to be looking for him as the first read all the time. So CD Lamb is a beautiful play this week.
Yeah,
Any arguments from you?
No arguments. He's clearly just growing in that role, isn't he? I guess one thing to as well look at is he's priced the same as Devontae Adams, and people aren't going to be able to overlook Devontae Adams at sub 14K. So I think CD Lamb's going to be at the lower ownership there as well. So I really like that call.
Excellent. Let's quickly talk about tight ends and defenses. If we're going to talk about value at tight end, then Njoku, we talked a bit about Njoku earlier. He's not priced up. He's in the 7K range. It's pretty solid. I'm looking at Robert Tonyan here as a 6,700 tight end. New England have given up the equal most targets to tight ends with 9 targets per game. So I'm looking at that going, that's solid. Obviously, you got to read Mark Andrews into that stat, but Robert Tonyan, Aaron Rodgers he had that phenomenal year where he caught so many touchdowns. So Green Bay should own this game against New England, and Tonyan scoring a touchdown is, that'll pay off. That'll pay off. So Tonyan's nice. I like Everett as well from the Chargers. They're coming up against Houston, so rubbish defense, and Everett's been a really important part of the puzzle for the LA Chargers, passing game. So Gerald Everett as well. I think he's priced up a little bit, but still decent value there. But what's your best play, Arch?
Obviously it's Mark Andrews, but we've talked about him. Like, he's just phenomenal. Like the 50% target per route run is outrageous last week. But if the next couple down in price, TJ Hawkinson, obviously. Look, I'm off just Detroit this week in general. I just think that offense is going to struggle without Swift and Amon-Ra if they're out. But Darren Waller, I think, if Renfro's out, I think we see a good return for, $9K. It's almost a value as well. But really, it's Mark Andrews as your premium this week.
Speaking of Renfro potentially being out again, Mac Hollins, who went up for 30 points, is still 6K.
Still 6K, right?
Still 6K. So another player to throw into the wide. This is the thing. There are some really cheap wide receivers out there that I think we can get different with those high-end running backs. So I like that a lot. Let's quickly talk about defense. I think at value, you want Houston at 4,000. The Chargers are banged up. Houston are putting on the 8th highest pressure rate, and they've got 10 sacks on the year. Pretty solid. I'd be happy to play them. Seattle as well. Detroit, again, if they're banged up, then Seattle at 4,400, they're putting on the 3rd highest pressure rate on the quarterback as well. And we kind of know what Goff does when he's under pressure, and it's not that great. So Seattle as well, I think decent value there. But the best defenses are pretty obvious, aren't they, Arch?
Yeah, that's right. And they're priced up. Green Bay against New England are the most expensive defense out there, which often means they're not going to be owned that much. They're playing against Brian Hoyer. So
what a stud.
So I wouldn't mind a bit of that. Obviously, a pay up, and so that sacrifices other parts of your lineup. Philly against Jacksonville. We've talked about that matchup a little bit here. If you wanted to get off that game and just say, hey, this might just hit the unders and Philly just sort of just control this game. They had 9 sacks against Wentz. Like, they're going to get to Trevor Lawrence. They're points in the bank. And then if you want to tie that in again, well, who did Philly get those 9 sacks against? It was against Washington. Who's playing Washington this week? It's the Dallas Cowboys, who had 5 sacks against Daniel Jones last week. And so look to see Dallas just get a whole bunch of sacks this week. Turnovers as well, 7K. You're paying up for it. But you hope, I think it's worth throwing into your player pool for sure.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. I think we've actually been pretty pro Dallas in this little post matchup section here.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great.
No, I don't like it at all. But they're playing Washington, so you got to go there, I think. Anyway, let's finish off with a bit of a head-to-head lineup build that we like to do here. I'm going to throw Lamar Jackson into our quarterback position, and I'm going to throw Mark Andrews into tight end because I just think it's super, super safe.
I think Draftstars makes that happen automatically this week.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So are you sure you don't want to play Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews?
Yeah, that's right. Who are we bringing it back with? It's head-to-head, so you don't have to, but, it's Buffalo and Baltimore.
Obviously, Diggs is the main play here. But what we're doing, we're chewing up a lot of salary here.
It's a lot of salary there. Potentially a lot of ownership.
Yeah. But, I guess we're head-to-head here, so we want to sort of lock in the volume here. McKenzie maybe a little bit too thin for cash. I'm probably happy with that.
Yeah.
Should we try to get a bit cheaper on defense? We talked about Jamal Williams as one of your favorite cash running backs.
Yeah. So let's just chuck Houston in for our defense. And in terms of cash running backs, I'm going to look here and go Jamal Williams. And look, Herbert was probably the guy that I'd really like, but we talked about Nick Chubb. We can't not put Nick Chubb here in our lineup, that's for sure. Who's the cheap wide receiver that you'd like to go to in cash? Like if there's a 6K receiver that you like out of those ones we mentioned, who's your favorite?
Matt Collins is obviously, if Renfro's still, it's concussion, so you kind of expect him to come back, don't we?
You think so, so let's say he does come back. Who else do we like? Do you want to go Pickens? We talked about the Washington cheap receivers. I'm pretty happy to go. I'd be happy to go Pickens or I don't know. Noah Brown's been
maybe Noah Brown. Noah Brown's just involved, isn't he? Yep. I guess the fear, though, with Noah Brown is if Gallup's back,
Of course,
which we haven't
that is the
seen
fear.
yet.
No,
And I
that's
think
right.
potentially if he's back, maybe we just do a swap.
Well, that's right. Put in the most expensive guy, and then we swap it down if you're feeling like Gallup's going to be
Yep.
the one with all the snaps.
Yeah. So what do we
we've
got? We got 11K for the rest of the way.
Okay, that's right. Do we put in Derrick Henry in our flex? Like, are we looking at him as a really good cash play? With
Yeah, I
lots of
do like
opportunity?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and it gives us
Yep.
10K to play with here, and I like Drake London as a cash
Oh yeah.
play. Like,
Oh,
he's
this just picked itself.
it did, didn't it? There you go, everyone. There's a cash lineup for you. We might even throw that in a couple of heads-to-heads. Who knows? Find us in the Draftstars lobby. Now, we didn't mention, once again...
No, we didn't mention a lot
TFL
of things.
Yeah, TFL TFL podcast contest is up in the Draftstars lobby. And you can use the link bit.ly/TFL week 4. We'd love to take you on as well. But otherwise, of course, gamble responsibly. 1-800-838-100. Arch, it's been fun. I'm really looking forward to week 4. It's going to be great.
Yep, absolutely. Obviously, if you're still watching, if you're on YouTube, love you to hit the subscribe button. We'd love to see our subscribers go up. So it really helps the pod out if you like and subscribe. Maybe even chuck a comment in. Get involved. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more.
100%. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next week.
Bye-bye.